Representatives of the government and the opposition, members of the diplomatic corps, ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. Welcome to the Economic Growth Council's second report to the nation. The Economic Growth Council, or EGC, as I'll call it from now on, is the body appointed by the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, in 2016. This body was appointed to consult widely and to provide advice to the Cabinet on a collection of broad platform policies and reform that would facilitate economic growth. The EGC, in turn, recommended 8 growth initiatives, and I know we have all read them. 8 growth initiatives and 111 sub-initiatives were recommended to the Cabinet last year. And the EGC has been working with a range of stakeholders to ensure that Jamaica achieves 5% growth by 2020. This is an ambitious goal, 5 in 4, set by the EGC chair, the Honorable Michael Lee Chin, OJ. And Michael, this evening, will present the second quarterly report to the nation. My name is Minna Israel. I'm the special advisor to the Vice Chancellor here at the University of the West Indies. And I'm truly honored to be your moderator this evening. Is it moderator or MC? Moderator. So permit me to begin by introducing the persons on the platform. Beginning on my far right, Honorable Michael Lee Chin, OJ, Chair of the EGC. Our very special guest speaker, the Honorable Dr. Alvaro Uribe. Welcome. The Honorable Dr. Uribe was a former president of Colombia. And next to him, we have Ambassador Dr. Nigel Clark, the Vice Chair for the EGC. Our dear Paula Carr-Jarrett, EGC member. And I have to say, my dear Patrick Hilton. And on my immediate right, we have Honorable Hugh Hart, OJ. Honorable Noel Hilton, OJ, JP. My sister, Pat Ramsey, OD. And Senator Cavan Gale, OD. Regrettably, 2 of our EGC members, Adam Stewart and Philip Gore, are unavoidably absent this evening. But in the audience, we have a number of EGC executive directors. I guess we have 1 executive director and head of the secretariat, Maureen Denton. Maureen, could you stand? And we have a number of chairs of the special working committees established by the EGC. Major General Anthony Anderson, he's head of the Citizen Security and Public Safety Committee. Major General, could you stand, please? Milverton Reynolds, Access to Finance Committee. Dr. David Panton, Diaspora Engagement Committee. And regrettably, Helene Davis-White, who heads up the Immigration Policy Committee, is not here with us this evening. But I must say, it's a very special welcome. And I see my dear friend, Chief Justice Zayla McCalla, in the audience. Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade. Senator Favour Williams, the women are here. Senator Favour Williams, Minister of Finance. Mr. Anthony Hilton, representative of the Leader of the Opposition, representing Dr. Peter Phillips, is here this evening. Major General Rocky Meade, our Chief of Defense Staff. Mr. George Coelho, our new Commissioner of Police. We also have Mr. Luis Guillermo Echeverri, who is the advisor to the Honorable Dr. Uribe. Could you please stand? There's so many distinguished members from the private and the public sector here this evening, and I'm going to just use one umbrella to say special welcome to you all. We have representatives from the trade unions, the security, finance, agriculture, and other sectors. Of course, we have heads of academia, and I saw my new friend and competitor, Principal Ambassador Stephen Bassiano from UTEC. We have the students of University of the West Indies, students of UTEC, students of University College of the Caribbean, Kingston, Northern Caribbean University, and I must say, NCU, we also have some budding entrepreneurs, proud winners of the National Business Model Competition from NCU. Congratulations and welcome. We have a group of distinguished UWI scholarship awardees, and I'm so proud to say that these scholarship awardees were funded by our local corporates. Thank you so much, and we look forward to so much more. Thank you and welcome, students. We also have UWI-STAT president and outgoing president, the vice chancellors, ambassadors. So welcome to you all. And as I stand, I must say welcome also to CVM, and all the audience are watching as we speak, and also the members of our live stream, and I know TVJ audience will be watching later. Ladies and gentlemen, since April 27, 2016, when the EGC was established, 5 in 4 has become a mantra right across Jamaica, right across the campuses. And I say specifically for the campus at UWI. The vision of the Council for 5% growth within 4 years has catalyzed new energy and purpose and passion right across all sectors, across all genders and age groups. So it's good to see the young people here this evening as well. And Alison, you're not included in that group. The chair of the EGC, Honorable Michael Lee Chin, has had a seminal role in articulating this vision. He speaks from the heart, and as he's not a real banker, you know he has a heart. So at this point, I'm going to invite Michael to welcome you formally. Mr. Lee Chin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson. Ladies and gentlemen, ministers, executives, fellow council members, it's been 1 year. So it's no longer 5 in 4. It's now 5 in 3. Time is clicking. Exactly 12 months ago, the Prime Minister announced the formation of the EGC, and on that afternoon, 2 p.m. on the 27th, I put my foot in my mouth. I said, we will achieve 5% growth in the next 4 years by 2020, notwithstanding the fact that over the past 20 years we have averaged 0.5. Notwithstanding over the past 10 years we have averaged 0.2. We will get 5 in 4. And it's most important, it's an imperative. And that imperative can be summarized by a visit Thalia, Lynn, Patrick Hilton, and I had to Port Antonio. It would have been about 6 weeks ago. So we went back, as part of the NCB Foundation, and we visited the Port Antonio Primary School. And that's the school I went to before I went on to Titchfield High School. So in my class in 1961, there were 120 students that Miss Henry taught. And 120 students, 60 were on the left of Miss Henry. Those were the bright students. The other 60 on the right of Miss Henry, they were dunces. And I was in the middle of the dunce group. Anyway, I passed full scholarship and I went on to Titchfield at 10-11. So 6 weeks ago, we went back to the same school and we were speaking to, coincidentally, about 120, 150 students. And I became most emotional. In fact, I wept. Because, and when I think of it, it makes me emotional. Because I was fortunate, I was blessed to have graduated from those conditions and went on to have lived a fulfilled life. So when I looked at 150 students about to matriculate to high school, I thought to myself, if we do not deliver 5% in 4 years, their life will be truncated. So it is an imperative. You see, over the past 40 years, we have developed a generation who, unfortunately, they have not benefited from growth. So they don't know what growth is. So it is our responsibility to make sure that we do everything to sensitize them to what growth is. So all they know is that assets devalue. When you have no growth, you have devaluation of assets, high crime, poverty spiral, low confidence, emigration, corruption, poorly educated graduates, a decimation of the middle class, devaluation of societal values, devaluation of currency, apathy, no opportunity for a fulfilled life. That's all they know. They have no role models. We're devoid of male role models, especially in Jamaica. So, the EGC's mandate, imperative, is to make sure that we reverse those conditions. So those 150 students will have the same opportunity to live a fulfilled life, no different from Mike Leachin. That's our imperative, that's our cause, that's our mission. Tonight, we're going to focus on one imperative: improving citizen security and public safety. Of all the 8 imperatives, this is the one that is most crucial, because studies have shown that if we can bring our crime rate down, murder rate down to the rate of Costa Rica, we'll add 3% GDP growth annually to our economy. So this is a big one. So on that note, I will turn the microphone back over to Madam Chairman to introduce our guest tonight. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Leachin. What did I tell you? He has a heart. He wept. A real passionate man, a real man. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, I'm going to invite Paula Carr-Jarrett to do the formal introductions.
Thank you very much, Mina. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. As you know, we're enthusiastic and passionate, just like you are, about Jamaica, the country that we love. And I just want to begin by thanking the former President Uribe for coming to Jamaica when we invited him. We were very persistent, to the chairman and myself, and when I was in Bogota last month, he made a commitment to me that he would be in Jamaica to help us navigate this crime and this lack of growth that we've been experiencing for decades. Former President Uribe did not have a great start where everything was perfect for him. He lost his father through a kidnapping attempt that led to his death. And so from that point, I think it escalated in him his energy and drive to make sure that he was going to eradicate crime from the nation of Colombia. He is known for being a workaholic and having fantastic charisma, not like not unlike our chairman here. And so we are going to be infused with confidence as we listen to him tonight, and we are excited. And there are many things, you know, when I was speaking to him today, he said, Paula, I want you to ask me questions. I want to be able to speak to the people, and I want them to hear exactly what you need for Jamaica. So I'm going to say to you, Senator Uribe, we want to know how we can instill more confidence in our nation. You know, everybody, I just want to say, and I've been really reflecting on it for the last week, we did not inherit a legacy like this. We inherited a legacy that was left to us by great leaders like Alexander Bustamante and Norman Washington Manley. We did not inherit a 1%, maybe 2% growth every now and then. We inherited a growth rate that was nearing 12 to 13% in 1970. What kind of legacy do we intend to give our children today? Every one of us sitting in this room and listening by television, every day you wake up, we need to ask yourselves, me, you, what am I doing to make my country great? What am I doing to build confidence? As leaders in this nation, not just politicians, but every one of us are leaders in our own sphere. Each one of us have influence. I can't influence who you can. You can't influence who I can. But you can influence somebody. And every day we have got to appreciate that we have to lead by example. And as I listened to the former president today explain about what to do to navigate high crime and to bring growth, you know what he said that stuck out to me? And I'm going to leave him with this as he begins to speak to us. Lead by example. Former President Uribe, we thank you for being with us. You are a friend of Jamaica, and we're ready to partner with you to get rid of this crime and to bring growth to our country. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Lichin and distinguished members of this Economic Growth Council, ministers, Chief of Justice, ambassadors, members of the government, of the opposition, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Paula Carr Jarrett, members of the university. It is a privilege for me to share this evening with you, a great honor. I want to express my gratitude to the Council, to the university, and to all of you. In the year 2000, I asked to myself and to my fellow Colombians, Colombia never defaulted. In the years of the two economic crises, the debt crisis in Latin America, first at the beginning of the 70s and after the tequila crisis of Mexico, Colombia had no debt crisis because of the prudent management of the economy. In the years when inflation in Latin America were about 2,000, 3,000 per year, my country had only 33. It was the top inflation rate during those years in my country. Well, a great tradition of good economic management. But in the year 2001, unemployment was in between 16 and 21. The private domestic investment rate was 8% to the GDP, very low. And poverty was over 50%. And I asked, I cannot understand. With this tradition of excellent economic management, I cannot understand these figures. And we began to ask for answers. And we found that millions of Colombia had lost confidence in the country. A country by then of 44 million people, more than 4 million had fled the country. No tourists went to Cartagena by those years. Therefore, our answer was, we need to create confidence in the country, within the domestic community and in the international community. But we ask, what do we need to create confidence in the country? And we chose 3 pillars: security, investment confidence, and social cohesion. And I remember that many people criticized me and said, Uribe, with this platform of security, will never win, because security is a path to dictators. It's a way for human rights abuses. Security is against the people, is against the freedoms. Therefore, my answer was, we are going to work democratic security. Security for all Colombians, for my closest friends and for my adversaries. Security without censoring the media, without restricting our freedoms. And I remember that I said, now we have to understand what is democratic security. In the context of, say, democracy, security is a democratic value and a source of resources. But we cannot work security in isolation. Therefore, our choice was to combine security with investment promotion, and at the same time with social cohesion. At the moment I left the presidency, Colombia was not converted into a paradise, but even in the middle of my mistakes, of the points I missed, I couldn't deliver to my fellow Colombians, the country made significant progress. Here is our ambassador and his team. Our ambassador, Admiral Roberto Garcia Marquez, was a key figure in our policy on security. We reduced crime from 29,000 homicides per year to 15,000. 50,000 were very high at the end, but the trend was very positive. Kidnapping from almost 3,000 cases per year to 200. 200 is very high. We wanted 0. However, the trend was very positive. And at the same time, while in the year 2002, foreign direct investment in the country was, roughly speaking, $2 billion American dollars. In the year 2012, it was 15 billion. For first time, Colombian corporations became multilatinas. In the year 2012, 8 Colombian corporations invested in foreign countries $8 billion American dollars. At the same time, domestic investment, private domestic investment, passed from 20 billion to 75 billion. When I have spoken on investment, radical leftist people in my country have said to me, you want this to sell the country to foreign investors. And my answer has been, the presence of foreign investors is very important as a signal of confidence in the country. But the most important component of investment is the decision of Colombians, of our people, to invest in the country instead of taking the money to other countries. while we passed foreign direct investment from 2 billion to 15 billion, the private domestic investment passed in the same period of time from 20 billion to 75 billion. And poverty. My goal was to reduce poverty from 51 to 35. I couldn't, because we suffered 3 very hard economic crises. The first one, the international financial crisis of the year 2008. Second, the collapse and the government intervention in the financial pyramids of narco-trafficking in my country. And third, the revenge of President Chavez, when we began to denounce the government of Venezuela for protecting Colombian terrorists. The vengeance of President Chavez was to close our border, to close the market for Colombian products. However, we took poverty from 51 to 37. And the most important point is that the legacy of investment confidence was very important for my successor to continue reducing poverty and improving income distribution. Paula and Mr. Clark have asked me some questions. Mr. Clark, I have told you this anecdote, the relationship between private investment and social cohesion. In one occasion in the year 2003, in Santa Marta, the city where Liberator Simón Bolívar died, and here I am very excited because last night in my home, I remember, I read again the Carta de Jamaica, this beautiful and very important letter that was written here by Simón Bolívar. That day, in Santa Marta, in the year 2003, President Chavez came to me and asked me, Uribe, how do you evaluate my social policies? My answer was, Mr. President, good policies. I don't know them in detail, but my impression is that these are very good policies. Mr. President, could I make a comment to you? Of course, Uribe. Move forward. Go ahead. Mr. President, if you want to make these social policies sustainable in the long term, do not expropriate the private sector. You need to expand, to promote, to give confidence to the private sector at the same time that you have to expand social policies. I remember his answer, Uribe, we do not the private sector because Venezuela has oil. And he added, Fidel, he never, in our conversations, he never referred to Fidel as Castro. He said, Fidel, and I quote President Chavez, Fidel told me in the 80s that Latin America needs a socialist country with oil, and Fidel signaled Venezuela. My answer was, Mr. President, it is not enough. You need to take hand in hand the promotion of the private sector with the promotion of social policies. And I remember that I brought to my mind that day the experience Latin America did live in Brazil at the beginning of the 60s of the last century. Brazil had years with an economic growth of 14%, but in the same year, it was an increase in poverty. Therefore, it came a new dictatorship because people dislike the promotion of the private sector without going hand in hand with the promotion of social policies. I wanted to express to you this balance, but I am a Spanish-speaking Latin American politician, and the time here is very short. Therefore, instead of moving forward, if we had any any minute left.
Okay. Maybe, Mr. President, you could speak about the trade-off between freedom and security.
The trade between freedom and
How
security.
you navigated that, or the perceived trade-off between freedoms and security, and how you navigated that in Colombia.
In my opinion, because of the lack of security, my fellow Colombians were losing freedoms. My country is a country with 1,105 municipalities. At the moment we arrived at the presidency, more than 300 elected mayors could not be in their towns because of the intimidation of terrorist groups. Therefore, I said, these mayors have lost their freedoms. The people have lost the freedom to freely elect their mayors. And we began our policy on security to protect them, to confront all the terrorist groups. And this mayor could restore their presence in their municipalities. I cannot accept that in democracies there is a contradiction between security and freedoms. Security is a necessity for everyone to enjoy freedom. And of course, freedoms need security.
You spoke about being able to build the support among the population and change hearts and minds, and the role of having early successes. Can you describe that policy of early success, one, and two, describe some of the early successes that were important towards the long-term goals of restoring law and order?
In the middle of my mistakes, because I have had a very long political career, and I spark controversies every day. However, the legacy I want to leave to my fellow Colombians is that I have dedicated the most of my time to live in permanent, active dialogue with Colombian communities. It is what I did during the 8 years of my presidency. Every Saturday I went for 8-10 hours for communitarian councils to talk to the people, to listen to the people on agriculture, on health, on infrastructure. Sundays, Mondays, Wednesday, to talk with the people on the case of security. Therefore, we involve our people in all the topics with sincerity. When I had to say, no, I cannot, many people got angry at me, but I did not lose my credibility. I prefer credibility than applause. It is very, very, very important. And I was asked, if you win the presidency, how long time will you need for Colombia to become a safe country? I couldn't answer. And today, in universities, I tell students, it is quite difficult in political leadership to commit with specific times. Therefore, what I commit, if I win, is that I will dedicate every day and every night to work for the well-being of this country. People were without hope. And I told the military, I told Admiral Garcia Marquez and his colleagues, we need to create hope. We need to pass from pessimism to optimism. We cannot promise excellent results in the short term, but we need that people feel the possibility that this country will change. And we introduced the idea of early victories. Therefore, Cartagena, a beautiful city, very close from Jamaica, people couldn't go there with excellent tourist facilities. In the international community, they did not go there because of the fear of violence. and Colombians couldn't go because there were roadblocks by terrorist groups in the highways of the country. And we committed ourselves. We are going to show an early victory in Cartagena. And we deploy the armed forces to specific highways. And we created the possibility for Colombians to travel by car to Cartagena with safe roads. And at the same time, with Admiral Garcia Marquez and others, I myself as president led the security, the safe belt around the historic city of Cartagena for international Caribbean cruises to come to the city. And I remember that when the first Caribbean cruise was going to disembark in Cartagena, I received a tourist. And I write on the wall my name and my phone number. And I invited the minister in charge of tourism to do the same. Mr. President, I cannot do this. I have to work. If I write here my phone number, people will call me all day, all night, and I will I will have no time to work. Mr. Minister, trust the people, trust the people. I received only 2 phone calls from 2 German ladies who complained that 2 native ladies of Cartagena have charged them with $50 for making their for braiding them. And my answer was in a very humble tone. I replied, ladies, come to Cartagena again. The next time, I will ask them to give you a very important discount. What is the importance of short-term victories? That you can create confidence in the big goals.
So, Mr. President, can you talk about the leadership by example and some of the changes that happened in Cartagena and how you were able to create areas where people felt safe and the impact that it had?
With Admiral Garcia Marquez, who were working in this region, and with the cabinet and with myself, we created a safe belt around surrounding the historic city of Cartagena for international investors to find in this place a safe tourist destination. And I went to every place, leading by example. I did remember this afternoon that when I intervened the city of Medellin at the very beginning of the administration, because criminality had imposed the rules in Medellin, we went to commune number 13. It was in the hands of terrorist groups, and I found a gentleman with 2 weeks of having been kidnapped. Inside a closet, he was standing. When we opened the door, the gentleman appeared, almost in dismay. Of course, it is necessary to lead by the example. We are very short of time, because with your questions, I bring many anecdotes, many memories to my mind. Time for other anecdotes.
Another one. Okay, good. You spoke to us today about the difference between political popularity and consensus, bringing consensus. In other words, you are not a populist leader. You don't do everything the people want, whether they think it's good or bad. You are austere in many ways, but yet your rating with the people, not necessarily politically, has remained at an average of 70 to 80%. How did you achieve that?
There could be many coalitions. One could be the political coalition. For me, the most important coalition is the coalition with the people. Governance. In my country, sometimes governance has depended on the agreements between the members of Congress and the government. In my case, what I did was to create this coalition with the people. And this coalition with the people gave our government a high level of popularity during 8 years. And it created governance in Congress. I was elected without congressional support. However, I could pass most of the reforms we needed because the people in Congress were listening to the ordinary citizens. Therefore, in this case, the coalition with ordinary citizens did determine governance.
I'd just like to say how much we appreciate your enlightening us on the strategies you implemented, leadership by example. Clearly something we all can implement, whether it's in government, private sector, public sector, academia. And I know we want to save some time for some more questions later. But thank you ever so much. Could I ask you to help me thank the President?
To lead by example, we are run out of time. Therefore, I have to give example. Thank you very much. It has been a great honor.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I must say this is a great segue for us to now invite our chair of the Economic Growth Council, Honorable Michael Lee Chin, to just share with us the strategies and successes as you deliver the second report to the nation.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Now, by way of context, President Uribe was elected in 2002 and re-elected in 2006. His tenure was 8 years. But during his tenure, kidnapping fell by 87%. Terrorism fell by 82%. The murder rate fell, number of murders fell by 53%. Police being killed fell by 43%. And economic growth rose from 2% to 8%. Wow, congratulations. So, what about us? Can we, now do you think 5% is that, it was aspirational, but during the course of the last year, Mike, I've heard, Mike, you underestimated. But listening to the results that President Uribe had and his focused, disciplined methodology, I think we can have confidence that if we maintain the strictures and abide by the framework that is defined, we will achieve 5 and 4. So this is the second report we're making. We made the last one on January the 27th. And this report will focus on citizen security and public safety, which, as we know, is the most worrisome and frightening issue that we all face in Jamaica. Jamaicans, at every level, we realize that crime and violence is a constraint to achieving meaningful and sustainable growth. Development. Reducing crime, therefore, is an imperative that we have to face and attack head-on and wrestle to the ground. So over the last, the salient initiatives that I'm reporting on tonight would be the deliverables on the citizen security and public safety and access to finance. And I'm happy to say all those deliverables have been met. So congratulations, Dr. Major General. But to be specific, there was legislation tabled in Parliament on March 21st to establish a major organized crime and anti-corruption agency as an independent national law enforcement agency focused on terrorism, major crime, and serious corruption. Now, this was tabled. We urged the government to urgently begin the debate in the House on this bill so that it can be quickly enacted into law, so we can get on with it. The other important piece of legislation is a bill to merge the Corruption Prevention Commission and the Integrity Commission of the Office of the Contractor General into a more empowered single anti-corruption agency with independent prosecutorial power. The bill was passed by the House of Representatives with amendments in February of 2007. Again, we urge the government to have the bill debated quickly in the Senate so that it can be enacted. We need to get on with it. These bold structural reforms and others to come are designed to tackle corruption, reduce crime, and tackle both the economic and broader social ramifications. Similarly, we achieved some success on the deliverables related to improving the business climate and reduction of red tape. But, however, some deliverables were not met, and we note our concern as these are in the areas of improving business climate and reducing red tape. So, the deliverables that were not met would include under business climate and red tape, create a framework for public debt reduction through a program of privatization of assets. That was due March 17th. It was not met. The responsible ministry is the Ministry of Finance and Public Service. Submit to Cabinet a plan to divest up to 30% of assets held by the UDC and Factories Corporation. The milestone was supposed to have been met on March the 17th. It was not met. The responsible ministry, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, UDC, and Factories Corporation of Jamaica. Improve the scalability and efficiency of the privatization, asset sale, and public-private partnership processes. That was not met. And again, Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. DBJ to submit into Cabinet a protocol and framework for the outsourcing of privatization to for-profit firms. That was due March 2017. And again, Ministry of Economic Growth, we still have to meet that objective. Now, the new Procurement Act was enacted in Parliament in 2014, and we absolutely need to get these regulations and handbook done speedily so we can get on with it. As we all know, there are government assets that can be better. One moment, my technology doesn't work sometimes. As we all know, sorry. Okay, as we all know, there are many government assets that can be better utilized to the benefit of the country. We therefore urge rapid movement on the proposed plan to divest up to 20% of the assets of the UDC and the FCJ. Finally, We see the engagement of the diaspora as an important partner to achieve growth and development. We note that the Ministry of National Security did not meet the March target to begin feasibility study of the creation of a global immigration card for Jamaicans for issuance to members of the diaspora. Funds have now been identified for this study, and the work should now begin. Meetings with various stakeholders continues. We have had over 150 meetings, and we implore those timelines that have not been met that we need to put some more, as Patrick would say, bounce in our step. In conclusion, whose responsibility is it to make sure our children have the best possible outcome? Whose responsibility is it? It's mine as a father. It's mine as a son, as a brother, uncle, cousin, citizen. It's yours as a mother, daughter, sister, aunt, cousin, citizen. It's everybody's responsibility to set the best example and be the best role model. It's all our responsibility. You see, role models, this is perhaps the most essential instrument to encourage young people to demonstrate commitment and dedication towards any cause. Role models are powerful catalysts in raising confidence, enthusiasm, and the energy level of an entire generation. Role models are the main fuel for progress. Role models transform a set of ordinary people into extraordinary achievers. They provide the mental and physical energy for people to convert plausible impossibilities into convincing possibilities. Let us all make sure that we are better role models. I am proud tonight to have presented, to have on the stage here, an exceptional global role model in Dr. Uribe. I'm proud tonight to have members of the council from Patrick Hilton, Dr. Nigel Clark, Carla Kerr Jarrett, Mr. Hugh Hart, Mr. Noel Hilton, Mr. Pat Ramsey, Mr. Cavan Gale. These are role models of our society. Ms. Pat Ramsey. You see, we have to ask ourselves, and this is a question that we have asked ourselves, and I would like to just go through with you who we see as the ideal citizen. So we can stick it up on the wall and aim for it. The ideal citizen is someone having the following characteristics. Someone who approaches life with their head and everything, with their head, their heart, and their hands. Someone who is a continuous student and never stop asking why. Someone who uplifts others. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. Good night.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee Chin, for that very passionate and impressive summarized report. There's no question that based on what Michael has reported, 5 in 4, or should I say 5 in 3, is possible. It's definitely within our grasp. Congratulations and thanks for your leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, as you would imagine, the EGC's vision for growth in Jamaica has created a great deal of confidence, a great deal of hope, and determination in our country. Apart from the outstanding cooperation and relationships that have been forged between EGC and all stakeholders, and I must at this point just pause to apologize for the absence of my Vice Chancellor, Sir Hilary Beckles, and of the Principal Archie MacDonald, who are both in Barbados right now at our Universal Council meetings. That's our annual council meetings. And they really send their, to you, Chairman, they send their regards. They're asking you to enjoy the property, but more so, they're asking you, telling you that they're behind you in every way as we try to achieve that 5 in 4. At this juncture, ladies and gentlemen, there are a number of our EGC members who will respond to some social media questions that we have been getting. and this is when I take out my technology here. We've been getting some questions on the social media site. And I'm going to ask, the first one I'm going to address to Ambassador Dr. Nigel Clarke. The question is, there's several countries with high crime rates that still have a high growth rate. I therefore wish to know exactly what the government will be doing to reduce crime and violence that will really lead to 5 in 4. Dr. Nigel, could you respond to that question, please?
Thank you, Minna. No one says that countries that have high crime cannot experience economic growth. The data clearly suggests that economies can grow in a variety of circumstances. Trinidad and Tobago, our neighbor, has a high crime rate that's quite similar to our own, and Trinidad has grown rapidly over a number of years. Honduras, another neighbor, has a high crime rate, and Honduras has grown rapidly. Sri Lanka has experienced civil war for 25, 30 years. It's over now, but over that 30-year period, Sri Lanka grew at rates that would put Jamaica to shame. So there's no doubt that countries can experience economic growth even in the face of high rates of crime. However, what is indisputable is that in the same environment, without crime, economic growth would be much higher. So if your base rate of economic growth in a high crime environment is at X, then in a much lower crime environment, your base level of growth would be X plus Y. For example, you heard the chairman with the statistics on Colombia. Colombia was growing at a rate of 2% a year when they had 30,000 murders a year. Drastic reforms, judicial and police and other kinds of reforms were introduced. The crime rate dramatically declined, as the chair gave you the statistics, and as a fact, the economic growth rate at the end of that period was 8% per annum. So what we are saying is that the Jamaica's baseline of growth in this period of high crime is in a region of 1.5%, 1% and thereabouts. If we can decisively have an impact on crime and violence, lowering the incidence of crime and violence, the data suggests that our experience of economic growth would be much higher, a la 5%, and hence 5 in 4.
Thank you very much, Ambassador. Now I'm going to switch sides. And I know very well that Honorable Hugh Hart has had a lot of experience in the tourism and agricultural sectors. So I'm going to direct this question to you, Honorable Hugh Hart. And the question is, tourism and agriculture have always been pushed as the growth sectors. But in spite of all the efforts, we still have had very low growth rates over the past decades. What will the EGC be pushing the government to do to ensure that we get more out of these sectors? Or what does it need to do differently?
Thank you very much, Mina. Well, as we have just heard, crime is the #1 deterrent to any form of growth and expansion in the country. And the government is well aware of this. All governments, I think, have been well aware of it, and so is the EGC. And we are seeking to create a situation where the security forces are given the wherewithal to deal with the problems, bearing in mind that it's very essential that the communities need to be brought together so that they are no longer in fear of their own safety, and they're no longer having to harbor criminals, but they will be giving support to the security forces and create some kind of trust between them. Of course, the security forces will need all the equipment and the ability to do this in the important areas and around the country. But crime, although it pervades all of our efforts to benefit Jamaica and to grow, is not the only thing. There is a blockage in the pipeline of development approvals in all spheres, particularly in the construction area and, of course, as a result of that, in the tourism area. And tourism impacts agriculture because we are able to, fortunate enough to be able to supply our hotels and our guest houses and everything else with produce that is locally grown. So the more that we can improve tourism, the more we're going to improve agriculture. What are we doing then to try to unblock this pipeline? We have given a great deal of consideration to this, and in fact there was a subcommittee of the EGC formed to deal specifically with this matter. We have come up with a recommendation which we, by the end of next week, will be in the hands of the EGC as a body, with the hope that it will be presented to the government, and if accepted, would be something that would deal within the system, but it would, what I'd like to call, streamline the system. There are some 15 agencies that we have to pass through to get our approvals, and well, I'm afraid that in between all of that, the penny drops somewhere and you don't quite know where your application is. It's taking far too long, and developments are an engine of growth, both for job creation, for the manufacture of local produce that would be used, and of course for the benefit of tourism and local development. It doesn't have to be all tourism. It can be, you know, affordable housing, all of which, I mean, I just heard of a situation where someone is going to look to do affordable housing, and they're allotting 2 years to get the approvals. That has got to be changed, and in the context of the normal approval process, we're seeking to put a limit of 90 days from the date that one makes an application to the date that one gets approval. And there, frankly, is no reason why that shouldn't be done. So there is a plan. It's been completed, and it will be put to the government within the next week to 2 weeks. We believe that once we can unblock that pipeline, the ability to grow the development process, to speed it, to unleash all of the progress that is being locked up, and that 5 in 4 or 5 in 3, 5 in 2 would become a possibility if we can do that. So I am very optimistic and very hopeful that that one big area, which will impact the entire economy of the country and the labor force and the job creation, will be something that will be dealt with within the next 2 weeks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hart. And he says he's very optimistic. I can tell you, he's extremely optimistic about education and what he wants to do for our kids, particularly in the areas that will drive economic growth. Thank you so much. Patrick Hilton wears a number of hats, And I'm not sure how many people knows that he chairs the board of the Mona School of Business and Management. So I'm going to put this question, which came from a student. Mr. Hilton, I keep hearing talk about this EGC. For me, as a young university student, how is what you're doing going to impact me? How has the economy grown since EGC was formed? And what will be different? Patrick?
All right. Thank you very much, Mina. The work of the EGC, which is really focused on doing essentially three things. One, which when it was formed, was to consult widely, at the request of the Prime Minister last year, as the chairman mentioned earlier, consult widely a number of stakeholders and come up with a framework of initiatives which were designed to get much higher economic growth on a sustainable basis. And we have articulated that that objective is to get to 5 in 4, which is 5% growth per annum starting in 2020. So the EGC, Economic Growth Council, that is what the aspiration is and the focus is. Now, how does that impact a student? It impacts a student pretty similarly to how it impacts all Jamaicans. There's increased opportunity associated with higher levels of growth, right? We get more opportunities for jobs, more opportunities for new initiatives and new developments and so on. There is a potential for increased income and income levels on a personal level as well as on a per capita basis. And there is also what we have observed by virtue of our own experience, an increase in asset values, so that all of us benefit in a very meaningful way from higher levels of growth. And it is particularly beneficial to students who at that point in their life are about to engage in new careers and want to have the best opportunity for development.
Thank you very much, Patrick. I'm going to pause now. I just received another question for the president. So I'm going to pause before asking that question. And just to share with you that all this could not happen without partnerships, without collaborations. And you would have seen in your booklet a number of organizations that have already signed on, declare their intent for support, signaling their support of this organization. And this evening, we have 2 new ones. So I'm very proud to invite, to sign at this time, 2 new corporate organizations. Mr. Mauricio Pulido, CEO of GB Energy.
Mina, we just switched up the program a little bit.
Yes.
If you could allow us.
Okay.
Just taking advantage of the president and the interest that I'm sort of seeing from the crowd. The president has indicated the willingness to take a few questions before we get to the sign-in.
Okay.
So if there are any questions, if we can, 4 questions or thereabouts from the audience, I'd ask you to just stand, take the microphone, and ask the question to the president, saying who you are, where you're from, and he'll answer. So if we can get 4 or 5 questions, please.
Okay. In that note, Nigel, I have the first one for the president.
Okay.
President, what were some of the specific programs that were implemented to create the Safe Belt? What were some of the specific programs that you implemented to create the Safe Belt?
There were some specific safe belts. One was in the historic city of Cartagena. Now, I am in permanent talk with some majors of the country. We are having a great problem, a growing problem of drug addiction, of micro-trafficking, micro-narco-trafficking. And my recommendation to the mayors is, please choose one specific area of the city. Devote all the resources there, with the army, the police, the educational organizations, the judiciary, and eradicate drug addiction, micro-trafficking in this area. And once you have fulfilled your goal in this area, communicate it to the people. And at that moment, you will invite the people, the authorities, to move on to other area of the city, to do the same, step by step, specific security belts in specific areas.
Thank you. Could you please introduce yourself and then...
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Raul Pinnock, a founding member of Do Something Jamaica. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to congratulate the EGC for setting deliverables with timelines and on achieving some of them and being clear and honest about what was not achieved. All right, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Mr. President, in Jamaica, there is a stark disparity between the performance of individual judges, right? And we currently have a backlog in our court system that numbers in the hundreds of thousands. I'm told there is bipartisan agreement that $2 billion per year, 2 billion Jamaican dollars per year sustained could go a long way in clearing that backlog. I would like you to speak about the importance of establishing rule of law and an effective judicial system.
In my country, my predecessor, President Pastrana, began to introduce the accusatory system. Before that, the same judge did carry out the investigation after the trial, and at the end, imposed the sentence. The accusatory system in my country has divided accusation investigation from the trial. The Fiscalía General, the people of the Attorney General Office, that is independent and autonomous, they undertake the investigations. And they accuse before the judge. And the judge conducts the trial and imposes the sentence. What is my evaluation? Although I approve the reform, my government introduced all the bills in Congress to adapt our codes to the reform. I am not fully satisfied with the outcomes. In my opinion, it is necessary to continue thinking, looking for options to introduce other changes. So far, I don't know. I have the idea to simplify the justice administration. One good experience is that we have created in many parts of the city, of the country, what we call houses for justice. In these houses, in these establishments, people go there to look for conciliations, for agreements. Therefore, in some cases, we have taken out the judiciary the solution of many misconducts. And we are looking in these houses to reach agreements, people agreements. It has produced good examples in the country. I have thought a lot in the correlation between justice and the policy of security. It is impossible in a country like Colombia, in the year 2000, with almost 30,000 homicides, to have effective justice. Therefore, to have effective justice, you need to reduce violence and at the same time if you do not reach a point where justice is effective, it is impossible to continue the reduction of security. Therefore, you need a balance between the policy of security and the effectiveness of the justice administration.
Thank you. Yes.
Good night. My name is Shoshana Prince, representing the UWI-STAT Corps, the Vice Chancellor's Corps. My question to you is, in your address, you made mention of the concept of democratic security. So what I would like to ask is, what were some of the challenges that you faced, especially on the international sphere, in your attempt to undergo this attempt at democratic security, and how it is that you addressed this issue?
Of course, the world is becoming more and more interconnected. Therefore, we have international criminality. I have been informed by my friends, Jamaican friends, that you suffer an international criminal activity, lottery, scamming. In Colombia, we have suffered a lot this international criminal activity that is narco-trafficking. At the beginning, we thought that Colombia was going to be only a rich country, and we became a producing country. And now we are having a great problem with a growing trend of domestic consumption. Therefore, you have to fight criminality in your country and at the same time with the international community. What is the meaning of democratic security? That you have to respect the democratic values, the freedoms, the rule of law in both, to work against violence in your country and in the international community. It is necessary that the rule of law conducts both activities, the domestic fight and the international fight. And of course, today, without international integration, without international cooperation, it is almost impossible for any country to become a safe country. Safety every day becomes a much more international goal for every country. But you are very young. I want to share with you and with the audience one of my major concerns on our countries. If we consolidate the Caribbean and the Latin American countries, we find that these countries have a population close to 600 million people, very young people. The average age is 28, 29. You're here in Jamaica, in accordance with international indicators, you have a younger average age, 24, 25. But in our countries, the youth unemployment is very high. In my countries, in between 17 and 22. There are countries in the region with 30, 35, 40% of youth unemployment. It is a way for youngsters to be engaged in criminal activities. I remember one conversation I had with President Cardoso of Brazil in the year 2000. His advice was, if you win the presidency of Colombia, you need to implement decisions to keep students in the schools, for them not to drop out. And following the advice I got from President Cardoso, we introduced conditioned cash transfers, money transfers for families, for poor families, under that condition that they certify that their children had attended the school, fully attended the school in the previous period, for which they are going to receive the state stipendium, the state help. It is very important. And the other point is how to integrate education with job creations. My idea is that formal jobs are very difficult and much more difficult day by day. Last week, in the Holy Week, I read a book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution, about artificial intelligence. The world will change dramatically the jobs we know in the coming decades. Therefore, we need to adapt our economies, our educational system. And my concern in Colombia is that we need to integrate primary school, high school, technical skills, technological and university opportunities with funds for students to undertake enterprises. In my administration, we create, Latin American countries are doing well with micro-lending. But one thing is micro-lending. Another very different thing is venture capital funds for young people. The world is full of capital funds for organized enterprises, but we lack capital funds for young initiatives. My idea is that we need to promote a public-private partnership to provide all the youngsters with the possibilities for them to undertake enterprises. I would suggest that it is necessary to prefer those linked to artificial intelligence, because this will be the main field in the future. I did something in Colombia, but the fund I created during my administration was not enough. It was a small seed. I want to put in your mind the idea of venture capital funds in partnerships between the private and the public sector to provide with resources young economic initiatives.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. There's clearly not enough time, and I'm going to ask both Paula and the chairman if we could have you back again, because there's one last question that's been posed by an anonymous guest. And I'm going to ask this last question, Mr. President, but Mr. Chairman, is it possible to have back President to meet with us and our students? Because I can see the eager faces and wanting to have more of you and more of your time. Could we have you back in Jamaica?
Visit us again.
It will be a great honor.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you. So, Mr. President, the last question I have. In any democracy, human rights are important. In any democracy where there is a loss of rights, like those you highlighted earlier, there is a need to take those steps to reduce crime and make a nation feel safe and secure. Oftentimes, the steps that must be taken are the very ones that face scrutiny from human rights groups. How did you navigate that course? That is the nuanced position of securing your citizens' rights while not trampling on human rights. Is it possible?
Of course. First, we did work with ordinary legislation. We did not introduce extraordinary legislation. Ordinary legislation in my country is
3-minute warning.
Excuse? No. Okay. Ordinary legislation meets the standards of law and order. Extraordinary powers forget the principles of law and order. I did not introduce extraordinary legislation. Did my administration receive criticism from human rights organization, I was criticized. In some cases, without any justification. And I had to answer and to discuss and to debate, in some cases with justification. In the cases when there were serious accusations, real accusations, true accusations, we imposed sanctions. And we accepted the problem before the country. We accepted before our people that there has been one or another problem, violation of human rights. Therefore, what is necessary is to be open to the people, to confront every situation before the people without secrets, openly.
Thank you very much, Mr. President.
We are going to focus on you. No more time constraints. We are going to focus. We want to hear from you.
Yes.
You're here. We're going to make use of it.
We invite the journalists or anyone who wish to pose a question, not just to the president, but also to the chairman. You have him here. Ask him those tough questions. So before we phase out the recording, as you know, it's live, I want to really thank Mr. Mauricio Pulido, I always call him Mauricio, CEO for GB Energy, and Mr. Robert Wright, President of the Jamaica Solar Energy Association, for signing on, for making your commitment known. And I guess, Chairman, we'll do the formal signing later. But here we have the President. Please pose your questions. Please, just a mic. Could we have some walking mics? Thanks.
Mr. President, did you have a challenge in Colombia with squatter communities? Because that's an issue that we have with illegal settlements that contribute to crime. Is that an issue that you faced in Colombia, and how did you handle that issue?
We have suffered this problem. Terrorist groups, leftist guerrillas, and rightist paramilitaries did the same. But Colombia has introduced some legislation against illegal property. We have a legislation to confiscate, to forfeit illegal ownership. We have a legislation to fight money laundering. President Santos has introduced a legislation to rescue land that has been taken illegally by terrorist groups. But this legislation, at this moment, has a lot of problems because the legislation has opened ways for unfair suits, unfair files. Therefore, one of the proposals we have is to protect those who are owners of good faith, because the current legislation does not protect those who have acquired properties with good faith.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Do we have another question? Yes.
Mr. President, welcome to Jamaica. I want to ask you, sir, Colombia has just emerged from arguably one of the longest civil wars for this side of the world and for a very, very long time. Over 40 years, the constituted authority of Colombia has fought a war with the FARC guerrillas. There has been a recent peace agreement that has been signed between the organization and the government of Colombia. Can you say to what extent the signing of this peace agreement will impact on the overall growth and development of Colombia, and are you hopeful that the situation that now exists is sustainable and will continue to work to the benefit of Colombia?
Very hard question for me for being tonight in Jamaica, because I have opposed to many of the clauses of this agreement. President Santos summoned the country last year for a plebiscite for the people to say yes or no to the agreements. And unexpectedly, the no vote won. I work for the no vote. We are not against peace. We are against full impunity. We are against the right that this government has given those terrorists involved in atrocious crimes for them to be elected for political post, for them not to go to jail, for them not to be punished in accordance with international legislation. During my administration, we had the demobilization of 53,000 members of the terrorist organizations. 4,000 were taken to jail for reduced sentences, but taken to jail. Reduced sentences under the condition that they say what was true, and they express all their willingness to repair the victims. But those responsible for atrocious crimes did not get the right to be elected. The rest of those people did not go to jail. We integrated them into a program of reinsertion. We did help them with possibilities for them to go to the universities, to get jobs, to undertake the initiative of small enterprises, and so on. It worked. Compare the number, 53,000. Now, this peace agreement with FARC had demobilized 7,000, and the Constitution has been changed. And I'm very critical, because I see that some new clauses of this constitutional amendment will demotivate private investment in the country. And impunity is the midwife of new violence. Therefore, we are suffering in the country a huge new trend of narco-trafficking. At the beginning of Plan Colombia, in the year 2000, my country had 170,000 hectares of coca leaves. At the end of my administration, we had brought it down to 60,000 hectares. Today, the country has almost 200,000. And this government has accepted to FARC that in the case of the FARC, parentheses, FARC is the largest cocaine cartel over the world. The government has accepted to FARC that in its case, narco-trafficking is not an ordinary crime. Has accepted that narco-trafficking is a political crime. Political crime, what is the consequence? No jail, electoral rights, no extradition. I extradited 1,200 individuals responsible for narco-trafficking. It was good for the country. It was good for the country. Therefore, my friend, at this moment, my political party is considering for the coming elections what to preserve of this agreement and what clauses of this agreement must be modified. Huge challenge for This is my daily debate in my country. And today I was very pleased because of the absence of this debate. But you understand how hard is it for many Colombians like me at this moment, this discussion.
Thank you, President. I have a quick question from social media, from the floor as well, dealing with corruption in the police force. Cocaine was a lucrative business, is still. We have scamming and other businesses here that you make money from illegal. How do you deal with corruption in the police force?
The best way to fight corruption in the police force, in my opinion, there are many decisions to make to clearance corruption into the institutional organizations, in the case of the police force. But I want to refer only to one single decision: to integrate police force with communities. We created a network of 4.6 million Colombians as informants of the police force, without guns, with mobile phones. University of Los Andes concluded during my administration that the task we implemented to integrate communities to police and to use the new technologies for the police and the army to have information on time and to have the possibility to react on time, that these tasks were very determinant for the country to improve security. Today it's less difficult to improve security because of these tools. Therefore, at the beginning, when I proposed this integration in the police, many officers told me, Mr. President, we cannot do this because we cannot lose our time reacting to false information from the people. And my reaction was, you need to trust ordinary citizens. And at the end, the police officers accepted that the false informations were exceptional. Most of the times that they receive calls from ordinary citizens, these calls brought true information. And on the side of the people, many people told me at the very beginning, Mr. President, we cannot accept your invitation because if we inform, if we report about any crime, killers, murderers will take vengeance and will kill us. Very difficult to implement this idea. However, with persistence, we created this network, and it was very important. What is the relation between this network and transparency? The more the police is in relationship with communities, the more the police feels that they need to act with transparency, because the integration with the community is some kind of supervision. I consider that it is a community supervision. And community supervision is a clear way, a very effective way to create transparency. I recommend this integration. People participation. For instance, to assign contracts on infrastructure in my country, I introduced one stage of public meetings to discuss the proposals. The new airport in Bogotá, my government assigned a concession, and we had a 2-month public discussion on live TV to make the decision to whom of the contractors the concession was going to be assigned. People participation, in my opinion, is a very effective way for transparency. And remember what I had the opportunity to share with you this afternoon, the case of PowerPoint. PowerPoint is very important and very dangerous. Whenever we had community councils for security, open to people participation, at the beginning of the government, the police came with a PowerPoint presentation. And in the report, for instance, they said, in the last 3 months in this city, we have had 4 cases of kidnapping. People did remain in silence. But later on, when people were getting confidence in our policies, people began to raise their hands and to emit their opinions. And I remember in one occasion in the city of Cali, one citizen raised his hands. Mr. President, with due respect for the police, in this period, Cali has had not 4 cases of kidnapping. Cali had had 8 cases. At the end of the administration, we had closed this gap between institutional information and people information. In one occasion, I used to meet every month with the owners of small enterprises in the city of Bogota, because I was in love with the idea to promote small enterprises. And the night before, the minister of charge of microlending came to my office with a splendid presentation on PowerPoint. And the day after, in the meeting, many owners of small enterprises came with complaints. Mr. President, I have not received my loan. Your government has not solved this problem. And the minister, I saw him embarrassed. And he told me, Mr. President, I cannot accept these complaints. Last night, you had the opportunity to see my PowerPoint presentation. We have growing a lot with microlending. And my reply was, Mr. Minister, those who are in your PowerPoint presentation are very happy in their houses because they have already received a loan. Those who are here, who have brought their complaints, is because these are not in your PowerPoint. Therefore, it is necessary to combine PowerPoint with Power People. This is my recommendation.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And I must tell you that Chairman Michael Ichin just sent me a virtual acknowledgement that a number of the ambassadors and honorary consuls may have to slip out for a major event that's taken place now. So he understands and he accepts your apology if you have to run. But I'll invite the, wow, is the line growing? Okay, I'm going to ask you to make your question very short.
All right.
Yes.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Charles Hyatt. I'm from Good News Jamaica Communications. I love the fact that I'm here and what this meeting is about, this report is about, because what we do at Good News Jamaica is to tell the positive information and imagery about Jamaica and Jamaicans around the world. Now, to you, Mr. President, thank you for your examples, because the question I wanted to ask is how did your government in Colombia work with the private sector to create the products and the image of Colombia for external interest to increase? When outside we were hearing how bad Colombia was, but you worked with the private sector to create, to use their creative minds to come up with the products and the services to pull the international community back to Colombia. How did you do that?
My friend, we introduced many incentives for the private sector to grow in my country. For instance, new hotels had the opportunity to enjoy a 30-year tax exemption for new hotels. There were incentives under the conditions that the private sector made the investment. Second, how to improve the Colombian image in the international community. Look at this, my friends. At the very beginning, I received a visit in my office. A group of people came to see me. Mr. President, we have a project to produce a video that should be widespread in the international community to improve the image of Colombia. And my reply was, it is not the right time. Because if we promote this video, and at the same time, the news is that Colombia is killing their people, its people, that we are unable to reduce narco-trafficking, therefore, there will be a contradiction between the video and the news. 3 or 4 years after, when the country had improved, we produced a video with the help of the private sector to promote in Colombia. And at the end of this video, I remember the close remark, come to Colombia. The only risk is wanting to stay. But at this moment, the video was credible. For it is important to match the international promotion with the trend of the country. Otherwise, you lose your credibility. My close remarks, I want to congratulate Jamaica for this example of having created this Council for Economic Growth. My congratulations and my best wishes.
Mr. President, I've been begged for one last, very short question, extremely short question. And then I'm going to ask Patrick, would you do a quick wrap-up at the end, please?
Our question is an addition to the previous one. We are interested in understanding how you plan to include in your aid to the growth and development, how you plan to include new and niche markets to boost development and growth. And we're also interested in how you're going to use the poor or underdeveloped areas of our country to do so.
Is that question for the chairman?
Yes, to the chairman.
Yeah. Could you repeat, please?
How you plan to use new or niche markets to aid in development, and how you plan to use underdeveloped communities in our country to do so.
You see, we have to deliver 5% in 4 years. 3 years. So we have to make sure that we tackle those high-impact projects first. And the highest impact project, in addition to making sure that we keep those traditional industries, which would be agriculture, mining, remittances, and tourism, we keep them growing. but at the same time, we have to introduce new, a new industry. And Jamaica is perfect for an international logistics hub. Perfect by virtue of our location, by virtue of the fact that we are English speaking, by virtue of the fact that we are British rule of law, and we have the geography for it. So the focus will be to develop that potential, and in developing the potential, there's a saying, you lift a rising tide will lift all boats. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. While Patrick gets to the podium, I just want to inform you that we have some chairs, some bubbly, I hope, downstairs in the lobby for you afterwards. But really, a team of workers did all this in terms of putting it together. And I want to say thanks to Marcia Erskine and Associates, OGM Integrated Communications, Main Event Entertainment Group, POW Social Media, NCB Marketing Department, I guess that's you, Pat, EGC Secretariat led by Maureen. Thank you so much for your attendance and your participation. Patrick, could I ask you to wrap, please?
All right, thank you very much, Mina. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. I thought everybody was inspired after what transpired here tonight. It sounded a little weak. People getting hungry, right? Anyway, let me first of all, on behalf of the council, thank all of you for being here and for participating in a very engaging way in the deliberations this evening, in receiving the report, and also in terms of the questions that were asked of President Uribe. As I sat there, I thought to myself, you know, this is a very special moment in time. Not just this afternoon's proceedings, but where we are as a country. And I'm excited by what I'm seeing in terms of the work of the EGC, in terms of the governance, in terms of the transparency, because what we did here this afternoon was consistent with what we committed to do, which was, first of all, not having done the preliminary work of identifying specific initiatives which were designed to get growth, to obtain growth, and a very aggressive growth target given Jamaica's history. But we also committed that we'd be very transparent in reporting on the performance under those growth initiatives, tracking them and reporting on them, and we did that. But something also occurred to me as I listened to our very special guest speaker. And President Uribe, I want to add my own appreciation for the clarity and for the sincerity with which you articulated Colombia's experience, the role that you played, the challenges that you face, and in which you responded to the questions. Because the truth is that one of the most important things, ladies and gentlemen, if we want to really transition from ordinary people into extraordinary people, is to dream big. Yeah? And as I thought about it here, I remember a quotation from T.E. Lawrence, when he said that all men dream, but not equally. Those who go to bed at night and dream in the dusty recesses of their mind wake in the day to find that it was just vanity. But the dreamers of day are dangerous men in that they act on their dreams and make them our reality. And so I want to encourage everyone here to dream big, because it starts with the vision, it starts with the dream, it starts with the belief. And I think you have a good reason to have faith, because if you look at what has transpired in terms of the work that the EGC has done, we have done what we said we would do. And we are on the road, we are on the mission. We are a country on the march. The focus this afternoon has been...
For my Twitter account, please.
Okay. The focus this afternoon has been appropriately on citizen security and public safety. we have heard, we know the rationales, right? I don't have to go into it. We have seen how it has affected us. We have seen the potential that we have if this issue is properly resolved. But it doesn't mean that we are not focused on the others. I just want to assure people of that. And so we continue to focus on the other initiatives, right? Including the 111 sub-initiatives which have been outlined as a part of the program. So, ladies and gentlemen, and in the interest of time, I want to bring it to a close to say that we're on a good path, we're on a good trajectory, right? We have to remain focused, we have to remain committed, we have to remain energized, enthusiastic, and motivated. The important thing, I think, for all of us is the fact that we have a plan and a program which we are convinced, we are satisfied, will take us to the objective that we want to achieve. And as I think about it again, within that context, it occurs to me that perhaps the best way of articulating the mission in which we are engaged may be found in the words of the American architect Daniel Burnham, when he said, I know the chairman likes this quote, "Make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood. Make big plans. Aim high in hope and work, recognizing that a noble, logical diagram, once drawn, will never die, but long after we are gone, will be a living thing, asserting itself with ever-increasing insistency." Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Good night.